last but not least, my next topic is Andrew Tate versus Piers Morgan.
Black Boy Productions. Black Boy Productions. How you done?
I'm going to start at I don't want to play the whole thing, so I'm going to start at one question that Piers asks Andrew.
Do that.
Do you think women are the property of men?
No. The point I was making.
Why have you said they are?
Because I made a religious point. I said that when a man marries a woman, the woman's father walks her down the aisle, and hands her away to the man. Traditionally, this is what it says in the Bible. I'm a religious person. I believe in God. I live in the
So you do think that the woman becomes the man?
I think she takes his last name.
I mean, let's watch the clip that you said about.
Sure.
So that we can get it in context.
So I think my sister is her husband's property, yes. When a bride is walking down the aisle to marry the groom, the father walks next to her and gives her away. True or false?
Yes.
Absolutely.
But I've been married twice, as it turns out, and on both occasions, I didn't believe that
he hasn't said anything wrong.
Handed to me as chattel, as property.
Perhaps the way the reason I'm asked that question repeatedly, and I'm asked in a loaded way.
So would you rephrase what you said there?
Now, that's a good interesting point about phrasing. The way I would say things before I was famous, I have to take personal responsibility and accept that if I make a video that 500 people see and 1% of them misunderstand it, that's not a problem. If I make a video that 5 million people see and 1% of them understand.
So specifically on that point, I think my sister is her husband's property.
She took his last name. She married him. She wanted to join his family. She had said it herself.
Right. So she's
still a sovereign individual. She's absolutely not a sovereign individual.
Property means that the husband owns your sister.
Listen, my friend, if you want to argue about this, you need to go back to the Bible, to the Quran. You need to argue with religious.
No, I'm not talking about anything in the Bible or Quran.
But that's what it says.
No, I'm asking you what you think.
I think that if a woman marries a man and she decides to take his last name, that they have different roles and responsibilities within that marriage, and I believe that.
That's not the question.
I believe the father.
Don't behave like a politician.
The father hands her to the man.
Right, don't be a politician, because I think you're a straight talker, right? You keep telling me you're a straight talker. I think my sister is her husband's property. Do you regret saying it like that?
I understand that with my newfound fame, perhaps it could be phrased differently. However, I still believe that a woman is given to the man in marriage. That's what I believe.
Yeah, but not as property.
The property is the word that other people use when they ask me the question.
But as an equal partner in a loving union, that's what marriage actually means. It doesn't mean given to you as a bit of chattel.
Agreed.
When has he ever?
So why say it?
But that's the way that people ask me the question. People say to me, they ask.
You can't blame people for asking you questions. Surely, if you want to be accountable for what you've said, you've got to own your responses, not blame the question.
I own the response.
You know, me asking you a question now, and you say something, and then say, "Well, actually, I blame you for."
I understand, Piers. I understand. I believe the woman is given to the man. I believe she's given away by the father. I believe she belongs to the man.
So fundamentally, you do believe that a woman becomes a man's property.
I believe she belongs to the man in marriage. Correct.
Right.
In marriage, yes.
You see, that to me is misogyny.
No.
And you're entitled to your opinion.
Right. But do you not understand why people think it is?
How is that misogyny, please? Yes, Morgan. You're a very smart man. Let's get the definition up. Misogyny. Misogyny, definition. Dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women. You do know what misogyny means, the definition. This is the definition of misogyny. Yeah, let's get back to the video.
Misogyny.
I understand why some people can be very offended by what I say. What they do is they take a point like that and they ignore all the other points I make the other way around.
But that's why I've repeatedly asked you about that line to see if you've changed your position. But the reality is you haven't.
It's not about changing positions. I'm a full-grown adult and I stick by the things I say and I'm responsible for them.
Which by the way is fine.
Absolutely.
So what you did say at the start of this little exchange, you said, I wouldn't maybe say things the same way now that I did before I was famous. And actually, you doubled down and said exactly the same thing.
On certain points.
So that is what you believe. And that's my point.
Yes.
I'm trying to work out, look, I don't know you. We've just met, right?
Yeah.
Come on. Leave childish things alone when you're an adult. That's grow. The person I was 5 years ago is not the person I am today. The person I'm going to be in 5 years from now is not the person I am today either. So,
I'm trying to work out who Andrew Tate is and what you actually believe. I don't want to twist anything at all.
Then let me make it very, very clear to the camera. I believe a woman is given to the man in marriage.
But a man doesn't own a woman.
It's not, no, it's
Because they literally buy them as a slave.
Well, obviously, we're not talking about that. We're talking about religious, biblical marriage. We're talking about something else.
Yeah, but I'm a Christian. I don't believe that I own my wife.
Do you believe your wife was given away to you when she took your last name?
I believe that there is a process where a father traditionally walks his daughter down the aisle and hands his daughter to this man, and they stand there and become a union of two loving people in a partnership. No, there's no ownership involved. You're a smart guy, right?
Correct.
There's no denying it. You're smart. You're a good talker. I've seen a lot of the stuff. But what I don't think you quite fully understand.
No, I understand very well.
When young, impressionable people
I understand
who are
very
not
well.
as smart see things like, I think my sister is her husband's property, yes, and you've just reaffirmed that belief. They think that they have the right to own women.
I understand that very well, Piers. Which is why
people think you're a misogynist.
Completely. I understand all of this very well, which is why when you're saying I was backtracking, I'm not.
Do you have any regret, though, of the way you phrase this stuff?
Well, this is the point I was trying to make. What I'm trying to make is, when I was not nearly as famous and I was making long format content, I was not sitting there anticipating I'd become the most Googled man on the planet and that few seconds could be taken out of context.
You went on to say about authority over women. If I have a responsibility over it, I must have a degree of authority.
I love the way Andrew Tate is handling this interview. Calm, collected. This is good for him.
Yeah. For the same reason, if I have responsibility over and people are going to use their mind, it's an example, an analogy. Responsibility over a child, I have to have some authority. Yeah. So you believe as part of your ownership or your property of the woman, you have authority over her.
No, I believe if you have
what you said.
I believe if you have responsibility over something, you have to have a degree of authority. You can't be responsible.
Yeah, but authority means, again, that you're the boss.
The point I'm safety of a woman. She was walking alone at night, and I was saying, well, I wouldn't let my woman walk alone at night. And they said, well, you're not in charge of her. You don't get to decide what she does. I said, I understand, but if I'm responsible for her safety, and I'm the person who's burdened with making sure she is safe, I have to have the authority to say, don't put yourself in unsafe situations.
Exactly.
The two things are linked.
Well, you have authority. You have you could absolutely have the right to say to the woman you're with, I don't think you should. But ultimately,
if she decides, then I can't force her.
Right, so authority implies that you have the ability to control.
But if she goes, then that's her problem if something happens to her. People that don't listen, they must feel...
Control someone.
No, authority believes, the authority implies that I have the moral right to sit and say that that's an irresponsible thing to do and I'm responsible for
That's not what authority means.
I accept that
you used the analogy of responsibility for a child.
My friend, these are
actually really important things.
They're important things, but you interrupt me every 5 seconds. So it's hard for me to actually explain my point. The point I'm making here is very simple. You have children and you're responsible for their safety. So you're going to have authority to say, don't go out at night, perhaps because you want to be safe.
I have legal authority.
You have a legal authority. Yeah. Legal authority. I'm saying that if I had a woman, and the question where you've raised this soundbite from, I was asked about protecting a woman, making sure she's safe. And I would say I wouldn't want her to go out at night on her own because I'm responsible for her safety. And someone said, well, you don't have authority over her to do that. And I said, well, no, I can't force her to stay inside. But if she were to ask me, how do I protect myself at night? I would say, well, you should stay inside. That's how you should do it.
I don't have an issue with...
So we agree.
No.
It's the semantics.
No, it's not semantics. And this is why I don't think you quite get why there's a furore over what you say. With respect. Because the semantics point would be we're saying the same thing in different ways. But we're not. I'm saying to you that when you say I have to have some authority over a woman, I say to you, you have no right to any authority over a woman. You do over a child if it's your child.
You have authority over your wife. Someone that has given you that authority. Yes. Actually, I don't even know why I'm addressing this, because he's got a lot of skeletons in his closet. He needs to sort himself out.
Because you are the legal appointed guardian of that child.
Understood.
You're not a legally appointed guardian or authority over your wife or female partner.
Legally appointed, absolutely not. I agree. However, when it comes to things like personal responsibility or personal safety, men, largely by society, are accepted. We're the protectors and providers. We can sit here and pretend that in the world we live in, if me and my wife were walking down the street and men were to come up and try and attack us, I wouldn't be the one fighting. But we both know in reality I would.
Right.
I have a degree of responsibility to protect her. So if I have a degree of responsibility to protect her physically, then the point I'm trying to make is I will do my best to make sure she's never putting herself in unsafe
You wish you hadn't used the word authority.
The authority is something that she would give to me. She would come to me and say,
So
how can I make sure I'm as safe as possible?
But I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to point out that's not what authority means.
If someone gives, a person can give
voluntary authority is not authority.
No, but that's the point. If
It's
a
not.
woman, Piers,
Find yourself.
Piers, if a woman comes to me and says, I want you to keep me safe, she is handing me authority for her safety.
Yes. Piers, disingenuous Morgan. You know exactly what he was trying to say. And yes, to a certain degree, I do believe that. I do believe that a woman in marriage is underneath her husband. Her husband is the provider and the leader of the home. So, yes, we all make choices. Yes, as a woman, I have a say in my marriage. Yes, I do. But the overall decisions is made by my husband. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not misogyny because I don't have a say in my marriage. Piers Morgan, what are you doing? And secondly, you're not even letting him finish answering your questions. I don't know any interviewer who just parades questions after question and not even listen to the answer. How is that a conversation? How is that an interview? If you don't like what he's saying, switch him off. That's what the off button's for. That's what the volume mute is for. Come off his page if that's the case. But to actually cancel someone because he has a view, if his view was deemed to be an act of violence or terrorism or something like that, then yes, by all means, ban him. But he hasn't said or done anything that I could say that warrants him being banned. I haven't watched all his videos. I've seen a few clips here and there, but yeah, he hasn't said anything that I feel as a woman offends me. He hasn't offended me. Yeah, so let's go to the next bit that I really wanted to talk about, because I don't know how Piers can transition from what Andrew Tate is on there for to this. Take a look.
But there was also, I think, quite a disturbing piece that BuzzFeed did. And it talked about the negative impact of young, impressionable male minds when they've read or seen some of the more inflammatory things you've said. And they quoted, for example, Sandy, 22, from Washington. My father's gone from a man who minored in women's studies in college, who was kind and in touch with his emotions, treated all people, men and women around him, with kindness, to a man who says that whenever he sees an effeminate male stranger, he gets an overwhelming urge to murder them. He loves podcasts. He listens to a lot of podcasts. I know he's listened to Andrew Tate.
So whoa. Let's stop for a second. Let's be professional here, Piers, because you're a professional as am I. First she said, did you say that my father went? She said, my father has a father. That's a full-grown man, firstly. So we're talking about my impact on children. You just talked about full-grown man here. Secondly, I've never talked about murdering effeminate men in anything online ever, in any context ever. So I don't know why they have taken some random person I've never met in the world who's full-grown, an adult, and come to their own conclusions who I've never met and lumped his name in with mine. That is absolutely unfair on every level. I didn't read this BuzzFeed. I didn't read this BuzzFeed article, but after hearing the first point, I know it's trash. That is complete garbage. Say that I'm the reason this man believes what he believes.
I have seen a quote from you, and you can tell me what you feel here about this.
Sure.
You talk about
Sorry, I just have to pause it there. How has that got to do with him? You said, oh, young men, teenagers could be very impressionable. That was a grown man. He's got a mind of his own. Piers Morgan, you're fishing. And it's the worst thing about it. You are so disingenuous. The amount of things that you have said on national TV, you, Piers Morgan, should know better. Your agenda's not working, mate. Actually, I'm glad Andrew Tate has stood his ground. This is a really good interview, actually, because it's the first time I've actually seen Piers in disingenuous Morgan look really silly. Because clearly we all can understand what Andrew Tate is saying. You're not letting him speak or answer any of the questions that you've asked him. Who sent you is what I would say. Who sent you? Who sent you? You deserve that. Because I think Andrew Tate taught this one. Let me just say, we need more men like Andrew Tate on social media. I do not agree with everything that I've seen of Andrew Tate, but by the most part, he's speaking the truth. Let's get into the next point that ruffled my feathers.
We're talking to you about Alex. We're talking about Alex Jones, right? Who I have a bit of history with. He tried to get me deported from the United States.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. What is your view of Alex Jones?
I think that Alex Jones is a sovereign individual who, very much like the rabid left, deserves a chance to speak.
What a segue. What the hell has Alex Jones got to do with all what he just said?
On his points of view, I think that the truth on issues is usually somewhere in the middle between two extremes. And
Do you think Sandy Hook was staged?
I don't know anything about Sandy Hook.
Really? You know he's just been sued by the families for millions and millions.
I have no idea.
You don't know anything about it?
No.
So why would you support someone in public when you know nothing about the most infamous
When
thing
have I supported him in public?
You have supported him in public.
I've been on his podcast.
No, but you said nice things about him.
I say nice things about lots of people.
What do you think of Alex Jones?
I said nice things about you, Piers.
That's fine.
So,
you should.
to sit and say that I've been on a podcast and I say nice things about
But
him.
you said you support his right to speak about things like Sandy Hook?
I don't know Sandy Hook. I don't know. And
you know what it was?
It was a mass shooting.
Of school children.
Okay. But to sit and
he's
actually, no, let's stop for a second. Please don't interrupt me. Here's why I know why you're good at your job. First, you interrupt people a lot, which is good. It's a good skill.
Actually,
and you're right.
But here's
and the timing's good.
Here's exactly what I do. I only interrupt people like you when you either refuse to answer the question or answer a completely different one.
Sure.
And I want to remind you of what the question was. Or when you misquote me back, which you've done repeatedly through the interview, where you say, you see, Piers, you agree with me. And the viewer who's been watching will go, no, he didn't.
Cool. No problem. The other thing you do is you try and set these traps like now. So you're saying
what's the trap you think I'm setting?
You're saying that I agree with every single point of view a man has.
I literally didn't say that.
You're saying, well, you support Alex Jones.
Why would you misquote me?
Because you're saying you support Alex Jones and you said you've been on his podcast and he said this. I don't know
what do you think of Alex Jones?
I don't know everything he said.
What do you think of him?
I think on his podcast he was cordial. I think he was professional on his podcast. I've also done podcasts with rabid leftists and people who openly hate me.
Is it wrong?
I do a podcast circuit So, and I don't know everything he's ever said.
When somebody
and I don't know what you're trying to get here. Because I did a podcast.
If you let me get a word in edgeways, I'll tell you.
It's a lame trick.
If you let me get a word,
I'll tell you. Let's go.
Alex Jones said that Sandy Hook didn't happen. It was staged by actors.
Okay.
This compounded the appalling grief of the families of those poor 20 children who were gunned to pieces by a lunatic with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. They were all...
Yes, it is an unfortunate case, as we've discussed earlier.
Already grief-stricken beyond belief, and this guy poured petrol onto that grief quite deliberately to make a huge amount of money from his InfoWars fake news bullshit. And as a result, a lot of the families have now sued him, and they've won. He's going to have to pay back tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars in damages to these families. And quite right, it won't do anything about the pain he caused them. Some of them actually had people turn up outside their houses with guns because Alex Jones had told them that these parents were making it all up. They were all staged actors. It was all run by the government. So I simply say to you, now I've told you that, what is your view of Alex Jones?
I don't see why any of that has to do with it. It's very interesting. I've done the guy's podcast. I know him well. He was professional and courteous to me. When I meet somebody and they show me respect, I show them back. Respect. That's what I do, as I did with you.
You respect him?
If somebody shows me respect, I show them respect back.
So if Adolf Hitler showed you respect, you'd respect him back.
That's a stupid question, Piers.
It's not. It's a logical extension of your argument.
No, if in 1931 I was walking through Germany and a man come up to me and said, sorry for bumping into you, I'd say, sorry, no problem, mate. I'd show respect back. I don't know, what are you trying to say? That I sanction the Holocaust?
You literally just said if somebody respects you, you respect them back.
I say if somebody shows me respect, I show respect back. That's a good way to go through life.
Whoever it is.
If somebody shows me respect and is courteous to me, I'm courteous back. Yes.
How can you respect somebody who caused such misery and pain to Sandy?
I have no idea the specifics of the thing you're discussing. What? I don't understand any of it.
Well,
I don't know anything about it. You've told me your version of events.
When did you go on the podcast?
I was on the podcast about four times in the last 4 years. I did one relatively recently.
So four times you went on Alex Jones's podcast.
Correct.
Promoting him, helping him make money.
I don't think it was promoting and helping him because...
Well, it's his podcast.
Well, yeah, but I've been on the podcasts of people who absolutely hate me. I've been on liberal left-wing podcasts. I've been on feminist podcasts. And no, you just sat here saying I would like you to agree, perhaps we can agree on this point, that I'm not feminist. I go on feminist podcasts. I do a podcast circuit.
You're not feminist?
I don't know. Well,
what do you think a feminist is?
Well, let's not change subject here, Piers. Stay on the subject.
You mentioned feminism.
Completely. But you're trying to get away from the point because what you did is you're trying to say because I did a podcast, I sanction all of this person's views. And I'm saying I do 5 podcasts a week. I do 5 podcasts a week and I don't sanction 100% the views of any other person on the planet because I'm an individual and he has individual views, as do you. So I don't know why you're trying to come at me with one of his views and pretend that's something to do with it.
It's a pretty big view.
No, but it's a lame trick, Piers, and you're better than this. So let's move on.
It's lame.
It's lame and let's move on.
A podcast, would you go on it?
Stop it there.
Sure. You would? Great. Okay, then.
I love Andrew Tate's comeback on that one because I don't understand where that came from. What's that got to do with why he's been cancelled? Him being on Alex Jones's podcast. This video is very loaded. I don't care if loads of people don't like Andrew Tate, but I don't think, well actually, do you think Andrew Tate should be cancelled for the things that he has said over the years? My opinion is no. Freedom of speech. He's not recruiting people to do things or anything like that. He's just having an opinion. It's not a popular opinion, but to cancel him doesn't make any sense to me. I think we need more people that have different views so we can understand each other. That's the best way forward. Feminists hate him. I don't know what he said that to make feminists hate him so much. He hasn't said anything wrong. I've looked at some of his videos. I've looked at some of the podcasts that he's been on, and he hasn't said anything that I could say, oh, as a woman, I'm offended. I'm offended. I'm not offended. If the shoe fits, that's the only reason why you'd be offended. It doesn't fit. What do you care? I have to laugh because Piers Morgan was trying his best to do something. I don't know, make him look bad, make him apologize for things that he has said, lump him in with other podcasters that say questionable things. And Andrew Tate handled his own. And I think Piers did not expect that at all. Watching this video has given me a clearer understanding into what Andrew Tate is about. Tell me what you think. Comment, like, subscribe, like. If you're watching this, like. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.
What productions?